I do want to touch upon, for those folks who are existing users of Event Manager, both some of the new features that have been released recently, as well as some existing features that have for quite a while flown under the radar. And regardless of whether you're an existing Event Manager user or are a prospective user of this solution, I think you'll enjoy some of the functionality we're going to discuss. Now, for the longest time, Event Manager was what I would call a menu-driven application. And although that was functional, certainly graphic is in. It's easier to navigate. It's easier to see what's going on. So not too long ago, we added to Event Manager this Navigator module, which lets us graphically manage, configure, and review all of the business conditions, the events that we want to watch for. Also, as folks have gotten more sophisticated in their use of Event Manager, they're no longer wanting to look for very simple conditions. Okay, I know when an inventory item is running low. Now I'd like to know when an invoice is within 10 days of its due date. I'd like to know about contracts that are about to expire within the next week, and so on. It used to be that to perform these more sophisticated calculations, that users needed to have a little bit of technical knowledge in order to do so. Well, that's no longer the case, as we now include a calculation wizard that simply allows people to choose from the appropriate calculation that they wish to perform, and Event Manager, using this wizard, just steps people through the creation of those calculations. I've mentioned some of the alert delivery methods as part of Event Manager: email, fax, cell phone, pager, etc. One of the new alert delivery methods, and a very, very popular one, is simply instant message. I mean, it is truly that instant gratification. For the longest time, people were satisfied with sending alerts via email, and that's still the most popular delivery method, but it still requires a user to have to open up the email, look through their spam, locate the corresponding alert message, and open it to view it. How much nicer is it to simply have a window pop up? The good old Microsoft IM, Windows Messenger as an example, simply pop up on a user's desktop and say, here's the condition that's just been detected, here are the details about it. No user intervention required. Pardon me. An additional alert delivery method that was added to Event Manager is Twitter, or the ability to send tweets. Now, this has been an interesting one, and I have to admit, when our development department first told me about this, I thought, well, is that really going to be used? And then it was explained to me a very, very neat function or benefit that this function has to offer. And that is that if you're using different Twitter accounts for alerts, you've got AR alerts, AP alerts, general ledger alerts, inventory alerts, etc., you could actually set up separate Twitter accounts for each of those categories of alerts. And then if you've got an AP clerk within your organization, that person subscribes to those alerts. But what happens if that person, that AP clerk, is out of the office? Well, using Twitter, the person who's covering for them on that particular day can simply subscribe themselves to all of the AP alerts through Twitter, and thus IT doesn't have to get involved. Alerts don't have to be reconfigured and redirected to an alternate party temporarily. Just a nice bit of functionality there. Of all the new functions built into some of the recent versions of Event Manager, one of the most popular, to be sure, is this area called Alert Dashboards. Now, dashboards tend to always put a picture into someone's mind of something graphic, whether it's a line chart, a bar chart, pie chart, pyramid, etc. And yes, Event Manager can generate alerts in those formats, but, and this is an important but, we have found that most of the clients who have enabled alert dashboards actually prefer text-based graphic dashboards. And the reason for this is that executives typically already have dashboard-like analytical tools like OLAP cubes, etc., that they're using. But once again, let's go back to the folks in the trenches. If I'm working in AR within an organization, I really don't need a bar chart or a pie chart or a line chart. What I want to see is a dynamic list of all of my customers who are currently overdue, more than 30 days, more than $10,000. If I'm working in the warehouse, I simply want to have one dynamic display that shows me a list of all of those items that are at or below reorder level. So interestingly enough, although we do refer to this function as dashboards, we find that the vast majority of our clients using this are using it in the method you see in these two windows, that is dynamically auto-updated displays of any records from within your entire ERP system that meets whatever criteria are important to you. And we'll take a look at some additional dashboards a little bit later on. The number one use, interestingly enough, of Event Manager in our entire client base is for the automatic generation and delivery of order confirmations, or you can also refer to these as statements or invoices. And what's really cool about this is because Event Manager embeds Crystal reports, chances are you've already got a Crystal report that is your invoice form, or your statement form, or your dunning notice form, or for that matter, your purchase order form. Those forms can be used right out of Crystal without any modifications whatsoever. And so it is the absolute easiest thing in the world to configure Event Manager to look, for example, for newly placed orders, and then to automatically generate the invoice for that customer, perhaps in PDF format, and have it automatically delivered, maybe even carbon copying the sales rep on that invoice. A couple other neat areas of functionality to discuss before we jump into the product. Reports on demand. I would be willing to bet that there's probably not a sole person on this call who's using Event Manager in this capacity. This is a really cool ability because if you remember from a few moments ago, I mentioned that Event Manager can monitor the content of incoming email. I've also mentioned that Event Manager has the ability to generate Crystal reports. We'll put those two areas of functionality together, and what you get is reports on demand. Envision this. You or one of your colleagues has the need to receive a certain report. Pardon me. Maybe it's an AR aging report, stock status report, open payables, etc. Now, maybe you're lucky enough to have access to Crystal, but in most organizations, the only people who have access to Crystal are the folks down in IT. So typically, if you need a report, if one of your clients needs a report, someone contacts IT and says, hey, can you run this report for me? You hope that IT gets around to doing it, remembers to send it back to you so that you can send it on to the client or review it yourself. Using Event Manager, you can send Event Manager an email message, and that's what we're showing right here. An email message coming into Event Manager saying, excuse me, I really need the following report. And in this particular case, we're requesting the aged receivables report. Event Manager sees that incoming email, automatically checks to make sure that the person requesting it is authorized to receive it. Event Manager then generates the report in the appropriate format, PDF, HTML, etc., and automatically sends that report back to the email address of the sender who originally requested it. I love this one. I really do. I think this is very cool. Okay, a couple other new bits of functionality to talk about. I've mentioned that Event Manager has the ability to go back into your application, such as your accounting system, and put a customer on credit hold or create a purchase order. Well, to do that used to be mostly done through programming, and slowly but surely we've built wizards around those programming interfaces, and this is one such wizard for updating data back in one or more application databases. And trend analysis. Again, this one, there's not a conference I speak at where after mentioning that, I get a lot of business cards afterwards from folks who say, can you send me that trend analysis event pack? Check out this example. The whole purpose of this event is to identify clients who have changed their buying habits. In this particular scenario, we're actually looking at an individual customer's sales. We're looking at what they purchased for the last month. We're then comparing that to the customer's average monthly sales based upon the preceding 6 months of activities to see if the client has decreased their sales by at least 25%. And it's kind of a neat event in Event Manager. You'll notice it uses 4 queries to pull all of this data together, but no programming is required, and I'll be more than happy to send this event pack to anyone who would like it. Right up there with that event is one that I've alluded to earlier, Inactivity Monitoring. Again, I need to know about the customers who have not ordered from me. I need to know about those items that have not moved out of inventory within a certain number of days. This is just a two-query event. In this case, we need to grab a list of all customers, and then what we need to do is simply count the number of sales orders that have been placed per customer within a certain range of days, 30, 60, 90 days. And if the count is 0, no orders for a given customer, guess what? We've got a match. This is really one of Event Manager's strengths, the ability to identify and act on things that should have happened but haven't. And I think just about the last major area of functionality that was added was the ability to link multiple events together into a multi-step job processes, something that was honestly long overdue in Event Manager. But job streams are your ability to define multi-step processes like, when we bring a new employee into our organization, what do we need to do, and in what order, and who needs to be responsible? Well, someone needs to sign up that person for health care and 401k. We need to set them up with an email account. We need to give them access to certain applications. We need to drop a phone line into their office, etc. Job streams, brand new and graphic in nature. Each stream can consist of up to 1,000 steps. The individual events in the stream can be made dependent on each other. You can rearrange the steps. It's just a lot of fun. Cross-application analysis, I should have known better. I knew there'd be a couple more things to talk about, is the ability to combine data from multiple applications and then see if certain conditions exist. I'm assuming that everyone on this call has an ERP or accounting and manufacturing system, but how many of you also have a sales or CRM system? And do those systems talk to each other? When someone enters a new sales opportunity in your sales system, is there some sort of automated process that checks to see if that customer has the available credit based upon their existing open receivables balance and their existing credit limit? Is there that cross-application checking? Again, a nice bit of functionality. Two last slides, just in terms of benefits and ROI. I think you can probably agree with these statements that these will be the types of benefits that you can realize through Event Manager. We actually surveyed our customers at the end of 2010. We surveyed right around 1,100 customers. We got these answers from them as their top uses of Event Manager. We then asked them how long it took them to pay off their investment in the Event Manager solution. 1,100 folks surveyed. The average payback period was just under 3 months, 88 days. And that ROI calculator is available to you for free, downloadable from our website, so you can actually see how quickly you might be able to pay off an investment in Event Manager.